Now, our next guest was born into a cult known as the Children of God, where the organisation replaced her family. Without her parents, she was moved all over the world and was humiliated and robbed of her innocence. Today, Juliana Boering tells us how she overcame these obstacles to build a new life for herself. Juliana, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, what is the Children of God?
Right. Well, the Children of God started in 1969, kind of off the back of the hippie era, where there was a lot of idealism in the youth of that generation, and a lot of disillusionment, I think, with the whole Vietnam War and society that at large that they were disillusioned with. And so the man who formed the cult, or the organization Children of God, his name was David Berg, and he was a kind of a washed-up old preacher who had never really found his niche in life. He'd been kicked out of his church society, and you know, he was supporting his wife and 4 kids, and he didn't really know where he fit in things. So he kind of, it was just like they went together. Like, he found a way to capture the youth of that generation through preaching an idealistic message of, you know, let's break away from society, let's build our own utopian society.
So your parents bought into this message?
Yes, well, they
joined.
were both hippies when they joined, and I think at first, you know, it was a very idealistic message and quite basic Christian message as well. But what happened is things began to deteriorate because David Berg himself was, you know, had a lot of psychological problems and a lot of perversions that he was into. So he began to twist Bible scripture and create doctrines to meet his own ends, or what he wanted to accomplish in the group.
Let's talk about you. You were born into the cult, and at the age of 3, things dramatically changed for you.
Yes, well, our father was something of a celebrity within the group. He ran a radio show in about, it went across 2,000 radio stations across the world, and David Berg saw a way of taking this radio show and using it as a way to spread his cult message. So he sort of lifted our father up in many respects as a celebrity. And as such, he didn't want our father to have any emotional attachments with family. Also, the cult leader believed that children were all part of the bigger group, and he didn't like private families because they took away from, you know, the cult at large and people's loyalty to the group at large.
So you were taken away from your parents at that stage, and you were moved around the world quite a bit, weren't you?
That's right, yeah.
Into
when I
your
was
teenage
3,
years.
I was separated from my family, and I became a ward of the family. They changed their name from the Children of God to the Family International, kind of to mirror that whole doctrine of they're all one family and one blood.
So what about contact with the outside world then? Was it a happy existence? You were away from your mom, you were away from your dad, you seemed to be constantly on the move. Were you happy, and did you know what was going on around you?
I think I was very confused most of my childhood. It was a very unsettling, I was a very nervous child. You know, I had problems with bedwetting till very late. No one ever told me where I was going. I'll be moved at the drop of a hat. I was taken to over 20 different countries across Asia, and we were put into large groups of children because David Berg believed that our generation who were born into the group were going to be the pure, unadulterated generation who would take over. And you know, they believed the world would end in 1993, and when Jesus came back, that our generation would take over the world. So we were in training to be future leaders of the world.
We're looking at pictures of you there, and you look... You're a beautiful child, obviously, and you look very, very happy there. But this travelling, the absence of your parents, the abuse that you go into in detail in your book, this led you to become almost suicidal, didn't it?
That's it, yes. First off, as far as happy pictures go, I don't know any children who were born into the group who have pictures where they are not smiling, because we were not allowed to not smile for pictures. It was against the rules. Our lives were very structured growing up. We were herded around in these big groups and put into camps where there was a lot of harsh disciplinary, military-style training for the children. And those who didn't comply were, you know, beaten down, severely punished. And so you sort of began to suppress your own mind or your own thoughts, because if you spoke what you thought or you questioned any of the doctrines or policies, you would be, you know, punished severely. So I think what happened then is, because I questioned a lot of things, I began to internalize it as there was something wrong with me instead of something wrong with the doctrine. And also because I had no family, I never experienced anyone truly loving me as, you know, as a family tie or anybody. True love, you know, not of the fake love that they said that they had in the group. And so by the time I was 13, I tried, you know, jumping out of the window. And when I was 14, then as well, tried again to, in a different way, but failed again. And I think I then took everything out on myself. I became anorexic. I became very depressed. I stopped talking, stopped eating.
You came to Limerick at that stage. You actually came to live in Ireland.
Right.
You had been around the world at that stage, but by the time you were 16, you were living here in the grip of anorexia, I suppose. What was it like? Was it any better here than it was anywhere else?
It was different in that when I came here, I was working in the commune. They would send us out about 4 days of the week all across Ireland. We would do balloon sculpting and face painting. As a way to raise money for the cult.
Again, presenting this happy face to the world,
yes, and we would dress up as clowns, and we would say, we're raising money for, we're a missionary organization. They always come across as being very, as a charity or a missionary organization. And so you would never guess that we were part of a cult. We raked in the money, and it, all went to the leadership, and we never saw a cent of it. So in that way, in some ways, I wasn't under as close supervision. That was all right. But by that point, my spirit was completely broken, which is what they wanted to accomplish, because the strong ones they would try to break first, as an example. You went to
Africa next. The travelling didn't stop. and what did you meet when you got there?
Yes. Well, I think Africa set me on the road to recovery, because I think I saw people so much worse off than I had ever had it. It put things into perspective for me. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to throw my life away, I might as well give it to a good cause. So I thought I would get into voluntary work, working with orphans, working with street kids. But it was still all within the cult organization. And so
you are here, though, to tell the story, and you have written the book. How did you actually get out? I mean, it seems that you were in the grip of something very strange and unusual, but you managed to leave. How did you do it eventually?
I think it's a mental process you have to go through. It's kind of an imprisonment of the mind, and you have to break free of your own accord. Nobody can tell you what's right and what's wrong. You have to find it for yourself. And so eventually, because I was always had questioned a lot, I started to question more vocally and verbally. And my sister ended up leaving in 2002, and she started to build a life for herself on the outside, and started to get herself educated and get a job. And I saw that it was possible to succeed in the outside world, because they had always instilled a lot of scare stories and fear into us from the time we were born of the outside world. And if you leave, there was devil was out there, and you could be killed, you could become a bum on the street. Like, they would tell us all kinds of horror stories. And so it kept your mind trapped into, you stay in the group and you're safe kind of thing.
But you are here.
So it was like taking a leap into the dark and not knowing where I would land. And luckily I did land on my feet, but I think the first year was very difficult. The same time I left, our sister and the son of the cult leader, both of them committed suicide. And I think that also was an impetus that stirred me to leave at that point.
Okay, well, the book is called Not Without My Sister.
That's right.
Juliana, we're so glad that you are here to tell us your story today. Thank you so much, and the best of luck for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,